Welcome. Back again for the CleanSpark and Bitcoin Friday update. We're going to take a look at the daily chart, the weekly chart, and then we're going to take a look at some short and long dated option interest. We'll talk a little bit about short-term price targets, and we're going to be adding trimming. What's my stance on that? And we might take a quick look at the general market overview after, just to wrap things up nicely, since it's the big day today. Jumping straight into the CleanSpark daily chart here, we've had this drop off. We've kind of wicked up very nicely from this gap fill just here. That gave us quite nice support. We did check it back again and popped back up off it, but popping up to fill this upside gap's proving to be a bit of a challenge. We do have this blue diagonal trend line here as well, which I think is going to be the next kind of level of resistance. I think a lot of what's going to happen with regards to price action on this is going to depend on what JP says later today. Some of the comments so far have been quite hawkish, so we'll see. He might just be playing the middleman again, so it'd be down to everyone's interpretation. But for the most part, this is excellent value. These are steal deal prices. I've bought some more. I've juggled some things around. I'm very happy. I would actually quite like to buy some more, so I'm kind of hoping it doesn't pop too much. But like I've just mentioned, upside resistance is going to be this rough area at 1368, I think that is. And then above that, this bull market band is probably going to coincide with this level as well at about $15. So that's one to watch out. We do have a low volume here, so I think it probably will move quite quickly through this area. The first major support, though, is going to be the bull market band and then the volume shelf here. The RSI, though, is looking pretty cold. We could use some warming up there, so it's definitely got room to run if it wants to do so. The MACDX Plus does have a bearish tilt to it, but it is starting to converge again, so hopefully we can get across coming up. And with the golden bar on the flow, that's definitely setting up for potential for a rallying point, but we'll have to see if that can play out. So moving on to the weekly here, this volume shelf, that's going to be a monster resistance there when we get to it. So I expect our next large move to get us back to there and at least take some resistance in that area. Probably come back down to these lower levels again. Unless we go parabolic, which I don't think that will happen just yet. Although we are seeing a lot of the headwinds starting to turn into tailwinds. For example, all of the countries selling, it's kind of drying up right now and supply is getting really low again, so this is good. If this continues, there will be a fantastic move coming up shortly. But for indicators, we're low on the RSI, so there's plenty of room for that to go up. The MACDX Plus as well, we're definitely still bullish, although we are converging more than I would like. I'd like to see that start to reseparate and institutions get in there a little bit more. We're a little bit under where I'd like to be in that at the moment, and flow obviously is still quite bad, so we want to see at least a blue bar here, or at least a green one. At least a blue one, but preferably a green one. My take profits on this one are a little bit different. They're not necessarily just based on CleanSpark. They're also kind of a little bit of a combination of Bitcoin price and parabolic FOMO action. So my first area of interest that I'm going to take quite a considerable trim, just take some risk off the table, will be this golden Fibonacci level. I think that's at about $30 from what I can tell. I can't quite read the print on this. It's too small on the thing, but I'll put it up there for you. And the level above that is this $43, $44 area. That's going to be quite a large trim as well, because that's a previous measured move. But any pullbacks that are large from these levels, I'll likely add back in a little bit and put a bit more risk on the table, depending on where it is in the overall Bitcoin cycle. So that first golden Fibonacci level gets about 135% return, and this second one is around about 260% return. I do have one a little higher up at $77. That depends a lot on what Bitcoin does. If we're going to go parabolic, the approaching $100 range is going to be quite likely, but they're getting up way over 500% return. By the time my position's getting up there, I will be trimmed and I will have a much smaller position. That's just how I like to take risk off. I layer in and then I layer out. Just helps me stay sane. Because the volatility when price is up there is going to be whiplash. If you think this is bad, you haven't seen anything yet. Open options interest for this one next week. pretty strong resistance around $13. I think if we pop over that, we've got quite a lot of space to run. But for the most part, it's kind of lining up with charts. So people are seeing the same things. And these are big funds that will be using the derivatives market. So that's always good to have them on side. The expected move's pretty decent though, really, but very little to the upside. So it's all going to come down to JP, I think. Whatever he says goes. Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. I know everyone wants to talk about it all the time. The world is ending. Bitcoin's not doing anything. I think all of that is a load of rubbish. I think it's actually looking pretty strong right now. It's really wanting to break into this bull market band here. I think when it pops, and I think that's going to come soon, that this is going to turn into a bullish bull market band. That's hard to say. And we're going to make a push back to the top of this trend line here, right with this volume shelf. I thought this would be the good breakout, but it's been consistent with its pattern. So we've arched, and then we've arched again, and we've arched. It's time to go. It looks really like it wants to push out at this trend line. It does look like it tried to break out and then back test it, but failing to make a new high. I think price is waiting to see what JP says today. I think Bitcoin very much trades with risk on assets still. It's not like gold, and it's not a run to safety, even though I guess technically it kind of should be. It still marches to the beat of risk on markets. So we need to see some confidence in rates coming down and some more liquidity coming into the markets. That would be major good. Indicator wise, RSI is flat, so lots of room either way on that. MACDX Plus, it's looking bearish, but could be looking better. So I'd like to see that take quite a nice step into widening. The institutions kind of hanging in there, but retail has been washed out. So we've been seeing a lot of weaker hands drop, but flow is flat. So it's just kind of tootling along. There's not been much volume. Volume's really been sliding off. So I think when we do see some volume come in, that's going to be very exciting, and I can't wait for it. I am ready. The Bitcoin price looks a lot more bullish when we zoom out and we look at the weekly chart. It just looks a lot more beautiful, but we can see it definitely looks like it's delayed, and we're going to start hitting my time zone for trims fairly soon. I think I'm still going to catch most of the move in that time period, which is where I prefer to trim a lot of stuff. That's definitely where I'm going to be more sensitive to volatility in the price there. But since I'm trading mainly Bitcoin in miners and proxies like Hood, it's going to be more important for me to be cautious in these time areas because the volatility there is going to be increased between 2x to 5x. So it's good to be on your toes. I'm going to be need to taking quite a bit of risk off quite early on into that. But as long as I catch the meat of the move, that's mainly all I'm interested in. I don't need to catch the whole thing. I've already profited quite a lot from Cleanspark, so anything else now is just cherry. I don't directly hold Bitcoin in my eToro portfolio. I've talked about that a lot. It's due to some restrictions with copiers, and I like to take my Bitcoin all off into cold storage. So for my private stack, I'm not actually going to be selling any of it. It's mainly the miners and my proxy trades that I'll be all out of when it comes to the time. They're not something I want to hold for the next 4-year cycle. They're definitely getting snipped. I will start accumulating them probably in a year and a half as this cycle starts to repeat again, but it's going to be diminished returns each cycle. So I'm mainly going to be focusing on the leveraged returns in the coming cycles. I don't think I'll be adding too much more to my private Bitcoin stack. I'm more interested in Solana at the moment. I feel very underweight there. I'd like to get that over my Ethereum weighting. So that's my plan with that one. But target wise for Bitcoin, I think it's going to fall between 120 to 240. That depends a lot on the macro. The macro at the minute is incredibly volatile. I've never seen anything like it. There's so many doom and gloom events happening in such quick succession. The market has been pretty impressive that it's held up. So we'll see how that goes. If you found this content useful, feel free to like and share this video. You can also check me out on www.thecraftytrader.com, and it'd be helpful if you subscribed.